Have you ever wondered why something as simple and mundane as a glass of water can hold a mystery capable of transforming our inner life? Perhaps we've never stopped to think that the same substance that flows through rivers, condenses into clouds, and dances in the tides also circulates silently within us, sustaining every cell, every heartbeat, every flash of consciousness. Water is not just a resource, it is a living mirror of life itself. And yet, how many times do we take a sip without realizing the greatness that rests there? For centuries, spiritual masters, philosophers, and healers have pointed to water's subtle ability to record, transmit, and reflect energy. It is like a blank canvas that holds invisible impressions. The American mystic Edgar Cayce, known as the Sleeping Prophet, revealed something fascinating in his readings: the possibility of transforming ordinary water into a kind of vibrational medicine through sunlight. He taught that when water is exposed directly to sunlight in colored glass containers, it absorbs specific frequencies of energy, becoming not just a liquid to quench thirst, but a silent ally for the harmony of body and soul. Perhaps this idea sounds strange at first, because we have been taught to think of water as purely physical, reduced to chemical formulas and scientific tables. But look for a moment at the water cycle in nature. It evaporates, rises to the heavens, purifies itself in clouds, and returns to earth as fresh rain. It's as if water has always been a messenger between worlds, the visible and the invisible, the earthly and the celestial. Edgar Cayce merely reminded us of something that human instinct already suspected: that water can be awakened, revitalized, and consecrated by light. Imagine this: a glass of water resting in the morning sun. The light penetrates through the glass and dances on the invisible molecules, as if writing a secret song there. When you bring that water to your lips, you're not just ingesting a liquid, you are drinking a memory of the sun, a vibration of life that has passed through silence to blend with your own energy. This simple act, repeated daily, ceases to be mundane and becomes a ritual. It is as if each sip were a wordless prayer, a direct connection to the source from which we came. And what is so special about this? Cayce said that solarized water, depending on the color of the glass used, could influence different aspects of being: blue to calm the mind and harmonize emotions, green to balance the body and bring vitality, yellow to stimulate joy and clarify thoughts, red to awaken energy and courage. It's as if light, by passing through color, becomes a secret language that water understands, and that it then transmits to us with each sip. Think of it as a gentle medicine, not made of pills or chemical formulas, but of pure vibrations from nature. If we look closely, we will see that modern science is already beginning to approach, albeit timidly, this wisdom. Researchers like Masaru Emoto have shown the world images of water crystals that transform according to words, intentions, and music. Words of love and gratitude generate beautiful and harmonious forms, while negative vibrations create chaotic structures. If water responds this way to sound and thought, why wouldn't it also respond to sunlight filtered by colors? In a way, Cayce and Emoto speak the same language, the language of energy that water carries and reflects. But perhaps the greatest richness of this teaching lies not only in what happens to the water itself, but in what happens to us when we perform this ritual. When you fill a colored glass bottle and place it under the sun, you are practicing an act of mindfulness. You're reminding yourself that every detail of life can be sacred if lived with presence. You are learning to slow down and perceive the invisible. The act of drinking ceases to be an automatic habit and becomes a conscious choice, almost a silent sacrament. And it is in this space of consciousness that something profound moves within us. After all, how many times do we go through the day without tasting what we drink? How many times is a glass of water just a forgotten detail between one meeting and another, between one worry and another? The ritual of solarized water invites us to pause for a few moments, to hold the glass with gratitude, to imagine that not just a liquid rests there, but a particle of the sun itself. And by doing so, we are not just nourishing the body, we are re-educating the soul to see the extraordinary in the ordinary. Think for a moment. The same sun that warms forests, awakens flowers, and guides the seasons is now, silently, writing its energy into the water you drink. It's not a metaphor, it's a living reality we can experience with simplicity. And what if, every morning before starting your routine, you took a minute to drink this liquid light? Perhaps your breathing would become calmer, your thoughts clearer, your energy more balanced. Not because the water itself was magical, but because it carries the memory of something greater and awakens in us the memory of who we truly are. The secret, in the end, lies not only in the technique, but in the intention. Cayce subtly reminded us of this. The energy you put into an act is as important as the act itself. When preparing your solarized water, do it with a spirit of reverence. Hold the bottle as if holding something precious. Allow your heart, like the sun, to also radiate something into it. Gratitude, peace, love. For water not only receives light from outside, it also receives the reflection of your own inner light. And when you drink it, you are giving back to yourself what you already carried in silence. When we think of water as a carrier of energy, we are not just entering a field of poetic mysticism, we are touching a reality that our ancestors intuitively understood. Ancient peoples from different traditions always looked at water as something sacred. Rivers were seen as deities, springs were places of pilgrimage, and even today millions of people in different cultures immerse themselves in waters considered healing. What Cayce brought was not an isolated invention, but the recollection of a universal truth. Water is a vehicle of life, memory, and spirituality. Edgar Cayce, when talking about solarization, emphasized that sunlight not only heats or illuminates, but also carries specific frequencies that can be absorbed by water. Each color, he said, acts as a natural filter, allowing a particular quality of solar energy to be recorded and transferred. It's as if we are tuning a musical instrument. The sun is the symphony, the colored glass is the score that selects the notes, and the water is the instrument that vibrates according to the chosen melody. When we drink, we become part of that music. This metaphor invites us to reflect. Isn't our body itself a great instrument? Think of how a violin resonates to the touch of the bow, vibrating according to the musician's intention. Similarly, our body, made mostly of water, responds to the energies it receives. If the vibrations are chaotic, the inner melody becomes noisy. If they are harmonious, we feel balance, clarity, and vitality. In this sense, solarized water is like a daily tuning, a subtle yet powerful adjustment so that we can play the music of life in its fullest form. Perhaps you wonder, but can a simple glass of water really transform something as complex as my emotions, my health, my energy? The answer is not in blindly believing, but in experiencing. The value of the ritual is not just chemical or physical, it is symbolic, vibrational, and above all conscious. When you decide to dedicate a few minutes to preparing your solarized water, you are training your mind to recognize the invisible, to open yourself to more subtle dimensions of reality. This gesture creates a new inner disposition, and it is this openness that allows transformation to happen. Remember that everything in our life is shaped by patterns of attention. Where we place our attention, their energy grows. If we live hurried, automated lives, our experiences become shallow. But when we learn to look at simple things with reverence, they reveal hidden layers. So it is with water. It has always been there, silent, but by consciously connecting with it, it reveals itself as a spiritual ally. Cayce, in essence, was inviting us to awaken this gaze, to train our hearts to perceive what lies beyond the surface. And there is something even deeper in this teaching, the reminder that nature provides us with everything we need, if we know how to harmonize with it. In the modern world, we have become accustomed to seeking complex solutions, expensive medicines, sophisticated methods, but perhaps wisdom lies in returning to simplicity. A glass of water, a ray of sunshine, a color chosen with intention. This return to the essential is often more transformative than any technology, because it reconnects us not only with outer nature, but with our own inner nature. Think about how the body reacts to the sun. A few minutes of exposure already awaken vital processes, vitamin D production, strengthening of the immune system, hormonal balance. Now imagine this same light penetrating water, creating a vibrational bridge that you bring into yourself. It's not difficult to understand why so many traditions attributed to the sun the role of supreme source of energy. It not only warms the world, it orders the cycles of life, regulates time, awakens seeds and flowers. By drinking solarized water, we are in a way drinking a fragment of this cosmic cycle. And it's not just the body that benefits. The mind, immersed in constant stimuli, finds in this ritual a pause, a breath. It's as if each sip were an opportunity to remember oneself. You hold the glass, observe the color of the bottle, feel the temperature of the water, breathe deeply before drinking. These are seconds that break the rush of the day and create a space of presence. This space is sacred, because in it time slows down and consciousness expands. Often, it is not the water itself that heals us, but the way we relate to it. Perhaps that's why Cayce always emphasized the importance of intention. If water is a mirror, it will reflect what we put into it. It's not enough to expose it to the sun. We must also offer it our best vibrations. When you hold the bottle with gratitude, when you visualize peace, when you breathe love, these energies are recorded. And by drinking it, you are literally drinking your own intention to live better. This cycle creates a virtuous circle. The more you connect, the more the water reflects, and the more it reflects, the more you transform. There is a curious and beautiful detail in this process. Many people who begin to practice the ritual of solarized water report not only physical changes, but also emotional and even spiritual ones. Some feel calmer, others more vital, others describe clearer dreams or stronger intuitions. This shows us that water does not act on just one plane. It acts as a bridge between dimensions. The physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual are not separate. They are threads of the same fabric, and solarized water is like a needle of light that stitches these threads, integrating them in harmony. And it is important to understand that this is not a ritual of dogma, but of freedom. There are no rigid rules, only principles. You can experiment with different colors, different exposure times, different intentions. The most important thing is to listen to your own sensitivity. The practice should not be mechanical, but alive. It is a dialogue between you, the water, and the sun. And in this dialogue, the true master is not just Cayce, nor any external authority, but the intimate experience that blossoms within you. Ultimately, the teaching of solarized water invites us to something greater than a simple habit. It calls us to reclaim the perception that everything in the universe is interconnected. The sun doesn't just shine outside, it also shines within us. Water doesn't just flow in rivers, it flows in our veins. Color is not just in the glass, it vibrates in our aura, in our emotions, in our thoughts. Each sip becomes a reminder that we are part of a cosmic web, that we are at the same time earth and sky, body and spirit, matter and light. As we come to understand solarized water not just as a physical resource, but as a vibrational link between us and nature, something begins to shift in our perception. What seemed like merely a curious technique taught by Edgar Cayce reveals itself, in fact, as an invitation to re-enchant life. Because it's not just about drinking sun-charged water, but about reclaiming the ability to see the sacred in the everyday. And when we begin to live this way, every act becomes a meditation, every gesture a silent prayer. Ask yourself, how many times do you go through the day as if you are merely surviving instead of truly living? We rush from one commitment to another, fueled by haste and distractions, and lose the invisible thread that connects us to the mystery of existence. Solarized water reminds us that spirituality is not reserved for distant temples or elaborate rituals. It can be in a simple glass, resting under the sunlight, waiting to be recognized. The extraordinary hides in the ordinary, and it is up to us to have the courage to look with new eyes. Cayce said that the human being is, in essence, a divine spark seeking to awaken, and that everything around us can serve as a mirror for this process. When we drink solarized water, we are not just absorbing an energetic frequency, we are symbolically telling the universe, I am open, I choose to receive the light. I choose to vibrate in tune with the greater harmony. This gesture aligns us with the intelligence that moves the stars, with the wisdom that orders the growth of trees, with the mystery that pulsates in the silence of the stars. It's interesting to note how this small ritual helps us regain something that modernity has stolen: intimacy with the elements. In ancient times, people knew they depended on the sun, water, earth, and air, and therefore revered them. Today, enveloped in technology and concrete, we forget that without these elements, we wouldn't exist even for a few moments. Solarized water is therefore a reminder of humility. It returns us to the place of children of nature, not as masters of it. And this return heals us, because it reminds us that balance is not in dominating but in cooperating. And here enters a very profound aspect. Solarized water does not act only on the body or mind, but on the very pattern of consciousness. Think about how we are surrounded daily by dense vibrations, news filled with fear, environments saturated with haste, relationships marked by anxiety. It's as if we live amidst constant noise that prevents us from hearing the inner melody. Solarized water, by bringing a purer and more harmonious frequency, acts as a silent tuner. It doesn't solve external problems, but adjusts our internal field, allowing us to deal with life from a place of greater balance. This adjustment, in turn, opens space for something Cayce always considered fundamental: the perception of the divine presence within us. Because in the end, every spiritual path is not about adding something that is missing, but about removing the layers that hide what is already present. When you drink a sip of solarized water in a state of mindfulness, it is as if you are wiping the dust off a mirror. Gradually, your true face begins to reflect there, a face that is not only human, but also luminous, connected to the whole, vibrating in unity with the source of life. And perhaps the most beautiful aspect of this practice is its simplicity. There is no inaccessible mystery, no secret reserved for a few initiates. Anyone can place a colored glass bottle under the sun, wait a few hours, and then drink. But what differentiates those who are truly transformed by this gesture is the quality of presence they bring to it. It is not about quantity, but about quality. A sip drunk with reverence can be more powerful than liters drunk mechanically. It is the intention that awakens the hidden power in the simple. This understanding leads us to realize that solarized water is, in essence, a training for life. Because if we learn to bring presence to a glass of water, we can learn to bring presence to a conversation, to a meal, to an embrace. The ritual teaches us that life itself can be solarized, that is, illuminated by a conscious gaze. The sun that permeates the water is the same that can permeate every experience if we make space for it. And when we live this way, existence becomes a stream of small miracles. Cayce reminded us that the body is a temple, and what we put into it directly influences our ability to perceive the spiritual. Solarized water in this sense is not just physical nourishment, but food for the soul. It is as if we are purifying not only the blood, but also our thoughts and emotions. Every sip becomes a reminder. I choose clarity. I choose harmony. I choose to walk in tune with the light. And this repeated choice day after day shapes our way of being in the world. Perhaps you realize that it's not just about drinking different water, but about learning to drink life in another way. How many times do we swallow the days without savoring them, as if they were hurried gulps of a tasteless drink? The practice of solarizing water teaches us to savor, to taste, to transform even the most common gestures into portals to the sacred. This in itself is a silent revolution, capable of changing our way of existing. Because when we learn to value the simple, we discover that happiness is not in great achievements, but in small presences. And there is something even deeper. By drinking solarized water, we are not just nourishing ourselves individually. We are, in some way, participating in a larger cycle. By tending to our vibration, we are also influencing the collective field, because all the energy we cultivate spreads, even if invisibly. A mind at peace radiates peace. A heart in harmony inspires harmony. Thus, each glass of solarized water is not just a personal gesture, but also a silent act of service to the world. It's as if we are saying, I choose to vibrate in light, and this light expands beyond me. And when this consciousness awakens, we realize that nothing is too small. A bottle under the sun can be an altar. A sip of water can be a prayer. A moment of gratitude can be a seed planted in the invisible fabric of the universe. Cayce taught us that God reveals himself in simple things, and that true spirituality is not about escaping the world, but about transforming the way we live it. Solarized water is just one example of this greater principle, the power to illuminate the ordinary until it reveals the extraordinary that it has always carried in silence. Having come this far, you may have already realized that the teaching of solarized water goes far beyond a curious technique. It is, in fact, a mirror that reflects a greater principle. Life transforms when we learn to look at the simple with reverence. Water, silent and transparent, has always been before us, sustaining our existence. The sun, constant and generous, has always shone upon us, nourishing everything that breathes. Edgar Cayce merely reminded us to unite these two elements with consciousness, and the result is a gesture that seems small, but holds within it a key to awakening. Because deep down, what truly matters is not just the glass of water we drink, but the attitude we cultivate while drinking it. If we can transform this act into a ritual, we can transform any moment of life into an opportunity for connection. And perhaps this is the greatest spiritual secret. Enlightenment is not reserved for extraordinary moments, but for the way we live ordinary moments. It is there, in the everyday, that the beauty of the divine is revealed. It is there that we can train the soul to be awake, drop by drop, gesture by gesture. When we hold solarized water in our hands, we are, in a way, holding a reminder of what we also are. Because just as water receives and transmits sunlight, we too are capable of receiving and transmitting light. Just as colored glass filters energy and makes it unique, our soul, by going through experiences, pains, and joys, also colors and transforms the light it carries. By drinking this water, we are reminding ourselves, I am a channel, I am a vehicle. I can choose what kind of energy I let pass through my being and offer to the world. This recognition gives us power, but a serene power, not of domination, but of consciousness. With each sip, we can renew the choice to vibrate in peace, to radiate love, to live with clarity. And little by little, this practice will shape not only our physical health, but also our relationships, our way of thinking, our way of being in the world. Because the energy we cultivate within us is not contained, it overflows. Just as river water does not keep what it receives to itself, but flows onward, irrigating the land, so too do we become currents of positive influence when we align ourselves with the sun of consciousness. And here is a powerful truth. You don't need to wait for big external changes to start. The power of the ritual lies precisely in its simplicity. You don't need temples, long preparations, or perfect circumstances. You just need a glass bottle, sunlight, and the sincere intention of your heart. It is in this humble encounter that strength resides, and the more we practice, the more we realize that it is not the technique itself that transforms us, but the presence it awakens within us. The glass of water becomes a silent teacher, teaching us to live with more attention, gratitude, and surrender. Perhaps you ask yourself, but can something so small really change my life? And the answer is yes, because life is made of small gestures. They are what, summed up, chart the course of our days. Just as a constant drop can sculpt a stone, a simple ritual, repeated with consciousness, can sculpt a new way of being. And when you least expect it, you will realize that the clarity, the calm, the vitality you sought in distant places began to blossom within you, nourished by the constancy of the sun and the transparency of the water. What Cayce offered us was not just a health practice, but a reminder that we are part of a vibrant universe where everything communicates. The sun speaks to the water speaks to the body speaks to the soul, and the soul responds to the divine. When we place ourselves in this cycle, we become conscious participants in the symphony of life. We are no longer just surviving, we are dancing along with the rhythm of the cosmos. And this dance is liberating because it restores us to our place of wholeness. And here is perhaps the most transformative message of all. True healing does not come from outside, but from within. Solarized water is not a magic potion. It is a mirror that awakens within us the remembrance that we already carry the light we seek. By drinking it, we are not absorbing something foreign, but reactivating what has always been within us. It's like lighting a candle in a dark room. The flame already existed, but it needed to be remembered. The sun and water merely help us remember who we are, beings of light in human form, travelers on a journey that begins and ends in the same place, the divine source. If you decide to try this ritual, do so with patience and constancy. Place your colored glass bottle under the sun. Choose the color that resonates with your need. Allow the water to bathe in light, and when drinking it, be present. Breathe deeply, feel, give thanks. Do not expect immediate or spectacular results. Allow the transformation to be like the dawn, slow, silent, and inevitable. And above all, remember, each sip is an opportunity to reconnect not only with the water and the sun, but with yourself, with your essence, with life. Because in the end, never drinking water the same way again is, in fact, never living life the same way again. It is to realize that everything can be ritual, everything can be prayer, everything can be light. That even the simplest act, raising a glass to your lips, can become a bridge between the human and the divine. And when we learn to live this way, we discover that spirituality is not in some distant place, but in every present moment, waiting to be revealed. If this message resonated with you, share your experience. Tell us in the comments how you perceive water, the sun, and the power of simplicity in your life. This sharing strengthens the community of seekers who, like you, wish to live with more consciousness and harmony. And if you feel it in your heart, subscribe to the channel to continue this journey of reflection. Because just like water that flows ceaselessly, we too are always flowing, always learning, always opening ourselves to the light.